Welcome everybody to another conversation with Avery and Tony. Welcome to Wise, Witty and Weird. Glad you could be with us to have this conversation. Now Avery, this is a topic that is important to everybody, I reckon, in our community, and that's education.
Absolutely. Everybody in, not the community, the entire country.
In the world.
In the world.
In the universe.
I don't know about the universe.
Oh, we don't know how well educated they are.
Yeah,
in Mars. Or
yeah, I mean, you look for intelligent life on Earth, you're going to be hard pressed to find it.
That's because they're uneducated.
Yes,
they're not getting the right education.
Yeah.
So your view on education is about it being free.
My view on education is that the government's approach to education is wrong.
Yep.
The federal government, the state government, they look at it as a burden on the taxpayer, and we just looked up, it's $111 billion or something like that that we spend on education per year, and the government says that's a burden. Yep. 30 odd years ago, Paul Keating introduced this wonderful idea called HECS, the Higher Education Contribution Supplement.
Yep.
And scheme. And the idea is that you go to university, you get your degree, and then at some time in the future you've got to pay it off. And I think my son James said that he doesn't have to start paying it till he's earning 54 or something like that thousand per year.
Yeah.
And then the repayments are quite low and things like that. But my view
they're manageable if you're earning that sort of income.
Yes.
But it's not manageable if you don't find it.
Yeah. And the other thing is that, as a person close to me said, he's never paid it off. He got his degree 30 years ago, right? And he's never paid a cent of it off.
Well, that's not true. I think that person has paid some of it off.
Paid some.
But doesn't pay off very much these days because
the low
that
income.
person's on a low income. That's
yeah.
right.
So the point is, if
but that's not the point. The point was really that education should be, forget about that stuff, the education should be free.
Yeah.
And what are the advantages then of having free education?
The advantage of having free education, firstly, just from a personal point of view, is you don't leave university or TAFE with a gigantic debt sitting over your head that you have got to pay off. Mm. You've got a HECS debt which you're not paying off at the moment because your income's lower than 54,000 or whatever it happens to be. But then the government says, can say, we've decided you've got to pay it off now.
Yeah, it's still a debt.
It's still a debt.
So
from the personal point of view, it's an advantage that way.
Yeah.
The way I look at education, and the way I think the government should look at education, is it's not a burden on society. It's not a burden on the taxpayer. It's an investment in our country. If we've got a well-educated workforce, and they don't have to go to university, they can go to TAFE. We need plumbers too.
Yep, absolutely.
Right? And we need electricians and hairdressers, and not I need hairdressers, and you definitely don't, but
do my own.
You do your own.
Yeah,
the thing is, we need those people,
yeah.
Right? And I cannot see any justification for saying you can do this, but you can have this massive debt, which we could change the rules about at any time. There are countries like Germany, Finland, Sweden.
You're saying the UK was free
Denmark,
education.
the UK. I don't know about the UK now. Certainly was.
Probably not.
Probably not, because they've moved that way.
That's right.
With Boris. And
I think the other thing too that I've found is that people are reluctant. I've had a lot of people who are on low incomes, for example, who will say to me, "I don't. Well, firstly, I could never get to university because I'm basically uneducated." But who are fearful if that opportunity does arise that they're going to accrue a debt. So there's this notion that a lot of these people that are poorer don't want to go into debt because debt to them is a dirty word. It's something that they don't generally experience.
Yeah.
And they don't want to go there. And I have to then encourage them to remember that it is something you pay off over time. You don't necessarily have to pay it off straight away. Blah blah blah.
And that person with that fear, because they've got a low income, and they know that what they want to study this particular field of science, we'll say, and the field that they want to study is the one that's going to result in
But
that person finding the cure for cancer. And because they are fearful of that debt, I'm not going to do it.
And there's two things around that. There are so many people who are smart enough to go to university, but for these reasons do not.
Don't.
And you're right. I've always thought there is somebody out there in that community at the moment who's smart enough to find that solution,
Yeah.
to cancer or whatever, but don't have the opportunity to become the person that they need to become.
Yeah.
And I've forgotten what the second point was. But I think people are generally fearful that they will accrue a debt that they will not be able to manage. And that was the other thing. And when they look at, how much does it cost to do a course, a 4-year course, for example, they're often looking at $100,000 sometimes or more. So, and if you're doing a medical degree, of course, it's exorbitant amount of money. And there's this overriding fear, I think, that number one, they can't do it, and number two, will I ever be able to pay it back?
Yeah, and if I've got that huge debt, how am I going to be able to borrow the money to buy a house?
Yeah.
And so I'm going to be living in rented accommodation all my life, and I'm not going to be able to go and, if I can afford to get married, I'm not going to be able to afford to raise my kids the way I'd want to raise them, and
they can't always be guaranteed, if you could have a debt because you've done an arts degree or whatever, which may not necessarily generate a high-performing job.
Yeah.
So a lot of people will think, well, why am I going off to university to accrue this debt? And lose sight, I think, often. So the debt becomes the major issue,
Yes.
I think.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people, I encourage people to go to university as a self-development course. Develop who you are, develop your knowledge,
Yep.
develop your understandings of the world. That sort of stuff's really important. But then, because of the debt, people are put off. But if people knew that debt wasn't there, I don't know the percentage, but I can guarantee you that there'd be a greater number of people that would go to university. And then I think, well, is that the reason why they have the debt? Because otherwise they'd be inundated. Well, there's only X number of places anyway, so people still have to apply.
You can control the number of people by raising the standards to get in there.
Yeah, and that's what they do.
Which is what they should do.
Yeah.
Right? They don't always do it, because you said about there's a lot of smart people that aren't going to university out of fear of this debt. There's a lot of dumb people in university right now.
There are.
Right? And if they raise the standards, you can weed out the dumb people.
Yeah, and I had a...
But, so my point
yeah.
is, whether it's university, whether it's TAFE, high school, primary school, junior primary, kindergarten, pre-K, it's an investment in our country. And what our government should be doing is not saying you've got to find $220 a week to pay for that, for the kid in kindy.
An issue that we haven't talked about, and that is daycare.
Yeah.
And the opportunity that all families should have to put their kids in daycare. Not as a reason whereby the parents get a relief from having the kids around, whatever that might mean, particularly if you've got 2 jobs. I understand all that. That's vitally important. I think it's important, though, for the education of the kids to be able to go and learn the preschool stuff, so they're better equipped when they actually get into kindy and so on.
I just mentioned Germany a few minutes ago. We mentioned it when we were sitting outside. You asked me, do I speak German? I said, nein.
And that's it.
And that's it. The thing about places like Germany is that somebody can go from here to Germany, enroll at a university such as the University of Heidelberg, study for that medical degree. It doesn't cost them a pfennig. Well, they don't use pfennigs, they use euros and whatever. But it doesn't cost you not 1 red cent. You don't have to find accommodation because the university will provide it for you. Right?
So why do they do that, though? Is that
because they see education as an investment in the country, and not only in the country.
Investment in the country if you're going to leave and go and live elsewhere?
Because they not only say it's an investment in the country, is if we train that person from Australia, New Zealand, Nicaragua, Argentina, wherever, that person might be the one that finds that cure for cancer.
And that person may choose to stay in the country.
And they may choose to stay here.
That's right.
And the thing is that you've got Germany does that, Finland, Sweden, Denmark, Norway, Belgium, Netherlands, Luxembourg, they all do the same. Luxembourg is one of the smallest countries in Europe, and you can get free education there. So because they say It's an investment in the country.
And this brings us to the other point as to why are we spending X amount of dollars in areas which you and I would question, for example, the military and defence,
Yeah.
versus pouring more money or using some of that money to pay for kids to go, or even adults, to go to university.
Yeah, I mean, I don't question the need for defence, right? I question some of the decisions that they've made about where they're going to spend those defence dollars. Like, as we said when we were talking outside, the Collins is a terrible submarine. I don't know what it costs. They've got 6 of them. They have problems filling 3 of them, putting crews in 3. Now they're talking, and they said, well, we'll get rid of the Collins and we'll buy 12 Scorpions, this French thing. And the Scorpion is a nuclear-powered submarine, but we don't want nuclear-powered submarines here, not nuclear weapons, nuclear engines. We don't want that here, so we'll buy the Scorpion, but French, you guys have got to modify it to run so it's diesel electric. And the price of that went through the roof. And then we've spent however many billions over the past, since that decision was made. Nah, we've changed mind. We're going to get nuclear ones from the United States instead.
And I guess
Bad decisions.
But the point is that we waste money.
Yes.
Where we could be investing in education, in people, I guess, in the community in general. You know, the argument that submarines employ X number of people and all that sort of stuff. I think that number would be outweighed if we were educating the general population in the way we should. Yeah. And giving those people the opportunity who normally wouldn't have the opportunity to get the education that they need. Yeah.
I say if I could wave a magic wand and make one change in the way the federal government spends its money, pre-K through university would be free of charge.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
Unfortunately, my magic wand is broken.
Yeah, mine broke a long time ago, so I apologise to all my clients for that. But okay, so education is an issue. If you've got any comments and you'd like to be able to talk to us about what your ideas about education, put them in the comment section below. Yep. And also just make sure you subscribe and ring the bell to have more of Avery and I in your home or at your office or wherever you're watching us right now. So thanks everybody. Take care, look after yourselves, and more importantly, be safe.
Be safe.